All right, welcome back to My Mama's Basement. This is the interview that I think all of our fans have been anticipating for the entire week. I think everyone's been looking forward to it like crazy. It's Michael Waldron, the writer, creator of Loki, the new show on Disney Plus that we have just been losing our minds over. First and foremost, congratulations on all of the recent success. Thank you for the amazing episode that you gave us last Wednesday of Loki. We're looking forward to the rest of the series. I want to take it back to the start with Loki and you and sort of how this all came to be. Does Marvel bring you in and lay out, hey, this is the next, phase of the MCU that we're looking to do? We're doing WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Would you like to do any of these? Or did you say, I would love to do a Loki show. Let's talk.
It was more the full. First off, yeah, nice to meet you guys, and glad to be on. It was more the former. It was Marvel had, they had the idea of doing a Loki show about Loki in the world of the TVA. That was their genius to put him in this kind of time travel adventure facing off against these guys. So that was my jumping off point that I started pitching from. And it's like you kind of learn, all right, that's part of the exciting part of or that's part of what's exciting about getting this job in those first couple of weeks is like, all right, just a fan, suddenly it's like you're going to Area 51 and you're just being shown aliens and being told.
It's sort of like Loki in the TVA. Like you had that experience.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and here's a dinosaur. Like they exist. They stood, and the Earth is hollow. And you're learning all the secrets and everything, so you can do your own job.
Now, when you see all those dinosaurs and aliens, when are you going to take that X-Men alien and Fantastic Four alien? So how are you going to introduce them into the MCU? And when? Is it episode 3, episode 4? We're going to do the finale, penultimate. Can you just give us like kind of a hint here?
Actually, they're going to get introduced in the MCU in the Star Wars movie.
How could we forget?
It's all going to, that's the answer.
It's foolish of us not to put that together.
Yes, come on, nerds
guys. Here. So what was it about this show that like made you really want to dig into it? Was it Loki, the character? Was it the actual like TVA thing? And also, this had to be years before Endgame came out, or at least a while before Endgame came out, right? So you had to know that he survives it. As a fan, you have to just be like, oh my God, I had intel about Endgame.
Yeah, it was like, I guess, right toward the end of the year 2018, like November 2018, when I started having meetings, it got kind of real and pitching on it. And part of that was I was like, all right, guys, how is Loki alive? What are we working with? And so they called me to tell me, and I just so happened to be in a parking garage, which was so perfect because I'm like in my car in a parking garage being told what happens in Endgame, because it was like, all right, so Endgame is about the Avengers pull off a time heist to steal the Infinity Stones back. And I'm like, even saying it to you now, I'm like, I'm not spoiling Endgame. And it was such a surreal conversation and moment. But really, really cool to get to have that. And then, so I knew what was happening with Loki, and we pitched on it or I pitched on it, got the job. And then our writer's room started in like, I don't know, February or March of 2019. In the second week of our writer's room, we actually got to go see an early screening of Endgame there in the Marvel offices. And that was really cool because it was mostly finished. There was some like previs still in the final battle, but like, I think for all of us, that was like, holy shit, we are seeing the biggest movie ever 2 months early. That's insane.
I have to ask this question because I've been bouncing this idea off Bob forever. And now that you've kind of gone in, and again, this Area 51 in my head, my dumb brain is going to keep thinking of that. Is there like a giant whiteboard that basically takes up like 20 classrooms and it's basically the next like 10 phases of Marvel written out by Kevin Feige? Because I feel like there's always a plan here. And if they have to kind of, move something around, they can. But it just feels like all this stuff is just a huge puzzle they always have in place, but they can also, switch it out. Just tell me that there is or isn't once and for all, so I can let my brain stop thinking.
I mean, there's definitely a plan in place that is very smart, and the place is populated by geniuses who are the keepers of all of this thing. I think part of that genius is knowing better than to put it on a giant visual board. But yeah, that's, there's a plan, and I've said this in a million interviews that I think the key to all these projects is just like make the thing you're working on great, and that's ultimately, that is what pushes the MCU forward more than they're going to connect, and you're going to stay invested, and the ride will continue.
Speaking of Kevin Feige, just as two Marvel absolute fanboys, maniacs who worship the ground that this man walks on, what is he like? Like, how quickly do you meet him? Do you have to give your pitch to him? Is that intimidating? Obviously, you guys have gotten along, right? Because you're continuing to work together on Doctor Strange, on Star Wars. So what's the man in the hat like?
Kevin's great, man. He is truly such a cool, just regular dude who just happens to be brilliant. I mean, that's I think my pitch was in a room with basically the boardroom table from Network that Ned Beatty is like yells, voice of God yells at you from. But I think that was the first time I met Kevin, and no, he's a great collaborator, a great listener, and very good at just like, all right, empowering everybody else's ideas, probably like any other producer, but or any other great producer. But his own ideas, like he'll pitch something and he'll be like, oh wow, like if you wanted to, you could probably just be the best screenwriter alive, couldn't you? Like sometimes that's the feeling talking to him about story and stuff. So yeah, he's the real deal. That's for sure.
It sounds like he's kind of a big leader of, a bunch of different people who are all awesome at what they do, right? And you guys are kind of competing with each other to like, hey, I always think of Civil War just kind of put the MCU on this different path. And then I feel like it kind of made everyone work a little harder. Now, say Kevin seems like a great guy, but say you were to find out that like he knew that his best friend had assassinated your parents along the way and he kept that to himself. Is that something you'd be a little upset about, that, someone who's supposedly such a good guy could keep such a horrid secret?
Yeah, I would try. All right, I'm trying to track that. Am I Tony or am I Cap in this scenario?
You're Tony.
I'm Tony.
Clem is Tony and I'm Cap, and this is an argument
Tony.
that we've had for about 5 years running now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, man, I get it. I know he was your pal, but he killed you.
Parents.
Heroes. It wasn't him, I mean, so it would have been hard to explain.
A lot of bad shit happens just because Cap feels bad that Bucky was brainwashed. I'll say that. I feel bad for Bucky too. I love Bucky. Cap is a great friend. That is for sure.
Ride or die.
That's true. Yeah. Fair enough.
Before we move on from talking about Kevin Feige himself, I do want to just touch on, I know you probably can't tell us anything about the Star Wars movie you're working on with him, but what was it that you guys clicked over when it came to Star Wars that made him go, hey, Michael Waldron, step up to the Star Wars universe with me?
I mean, I think that we've had 2 successful collaborations now on Loki and Doctor Strange have both been a pleasure, and we're both Star Wars fans. Really, we truly love that universe, and I don't know that it's much more complex than that. It's just we've got a lot of reverence for that world, and would both love to tell a story in it. So I think that's why that worked.
Are you writing that script right now?
Right,
Are you allowed to even
now,
say that?
Yeah, you can't see my hands.
On the other side of his laptop, he's got the whiteboard with the timeline on it.
Yeah, exactly. I minimize this screen. It's all right there. Yeah, I don't know.
All right. So a question that I have about Loki episode 1, which I've watched 4 times now. I understand. I tweeted. I understand that's probably time that could be better spent doing something else now that I've seen it over and over again, but it's so damn good. I just keep going back.
Man.
So there's the scene where Casey has the desk full of Infinity Stones. When you write a scene like that, where you actually bring the stones in and you talk about them in the way that you do, where, okay, in the TVA, the magic really doesn't work here. And it gives Loki the realization that I'm in this really special place. The place is not an illusion. Do you have to run that up the ladder when you bring the stones in and be like, hey, can I use the Infinity Stones? Or are you given the freedom in Marvel to be like, do whatever you want?
I do like the idea of Kevin watching that and being like, "Oh shit! Wait, what the fuck?" You had stones. No, you said eggs. You said they were wet eggs. Yes, that one you got to run up the flagpole to use the Infinity Stones. But we had a producer in the room with us at all times, helping us. Really, I mean, functioning as another writer, this guy Kevin Wright, was as much a part of shaping the creative as anybody. And so the executives there, like you guys were saying, they all do such a good job under Kevin, and they have a direct line to everybody above them. So when we're like, hey, we want to show Infinity Stones in this episode, and because we think it would be impactful, you can get a quick answer on if that's okay or not. And I think in that case, it's really thrilling. And what better way to signal we're in a new era of things for Marvel. The Infinity Stone, the Infinity Saga, that was the past. This is the future.
We were talking about this last week when we recapped the episode, and I compared it to the beginning of Infinity War, where Thanos crushes the Tesseract in his bare hand and reduces it to the stone. And it's like, oh my God, the entire buildup of the first phase was all over the Tesseract, was all over Avengers. And you get to that, and it's like, well, yeah, that's the past. That's not really, it doesn't apply anymore. Now, we got some questions where people were like, they're being used as paperweights. It's the Infinity Stones, for Christ's sake. Like, what did you make of the fans? I'm sure you saw some people being like, we're all 23 films for nothing now.
I mean, I think that's exactly how Loki felt in that moment, in a way. So and to some extent, that's exactly how we'd want people to feel, at least feel that sort of like, unmoored, and like, wait, what the hell? Like questioning, what does everything mean and all that. And I think that's all I should say on it for now.
Tom Hiddleston's performance when he realizes that is tremendous. Just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing. Tom's so great. And I've talked about this, but yeah, day one of the writer's room, we put up on the wall a picture of Buzz Lightyear with his arm popped off, because we were like, that's the emotional climax of episode 1. We knew that on the very first day of the writer's room, that him seeing how his life was supposed to play out, seeing that was his glorious purpose, was going to be really cool.
Wow, I was going to ask if you had any inspirations, or if you pulled any inspirations that we wouldn't expect. And Toy Story is a great one.
Yeah, that was day one. Toy Story. Loki is Buzz. You are a toy.
And I saw in another interview you had done that you said Miss Minute drew the inspiration from Mr. DNA from Jurassic Park, which, I mean, that's one of my all-time bit characters. Dino DNA. I'm saying it all the time there. So to have Miss Minute, just every time I hear that voice and, see her on screen, it's just going to warm my heart. I feel like there's a lot of kind of will be a lot of little nostalgic bits throughout the series that you probably draw from. So, I mean, Toy Story and Jurassic Park, you're batting 1,000 in my house right now, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, those are all the things. Yeah. All the things I love. So that's the stuff that I was just, it's Mr. DNA, Dino DNA.
We took some fan questions from the last episode, and we got one from Kevin Kelly where this is an important one, and I think it's one that has been on the mind of a lot of fans. Is Casey Mephisto? And now I want to parlay this into also like when you have that scene in the church in episode 1 where the little girl points to the mosaic of the devil on the wall, you knowing that you wrote that scene in and you filmed it, when WandaVision comes out and everyone's talking about Mephisto, are you in the back of your mind like, oh fuck, we got a devil scene?
No way, man. I'm pumped.
You were like, all right, we're gonna like muddy the waters for everyone now.
Yeah. I mean, Mephisto's a meme at this point. Like, I like, how do you, whenever, if and when Mephisto does show up, the real trick will be, how does it not feel like the Juggernaut doing "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch" in X-Men: The Last Stand? Like that will be, because it's transcended at this point. No, I think that's cool. I love the speculation. I think that's part of the fun of this. You have to embrace it. You're not gonna always make people happy with that. You also have to understand we're making stuff to be consumed by wide audiences. That's part of it. People are always going to like everything. That's okay. Is Casey Mephisto? Time will tell. I mean, Casey is based on, there's a character in one of the early runs of the TVA or of the TVA in the comics who's just a green alien who's like a train conductor. You can find him on Google, I think, but that's who Casey's based on. And yeah, Casey's a fan favorite. I love it.
Oh my God, I loved Casey. He had my favorite line of the whole episode when Loki threatens to gut him like a fish, and his delivery of just "what's a fish" was so funny to me.
He's great.
Great. Even though you said, this is what it's all about, is to kind of, watch this show and have fun with it, can you just please tell me, so I get it from your mouth, just say, Clem, do not go on Reddit and ruin this show like you have ruined so many other shows, whether it's WandaVision, True Detective, and I get down and I'm reading, and everyone creates this show that is impossible for it to be made in 6 episodes, let alone 600. Can you just yell at me basically and tell me, don't go on Reddit, don't spend like the 4 days following the episode making up a show that doesn't exist and believing Mephisto, Magneto, fucking Professor X are all just going to show up in episode 5 or something like that.
Well, hopefully that you don't have Tom Hiddleston like teasing a huge cameo and it being himself. That would be
right. Yeah, especially in a show about variants, that would be tough.
Exactly.
I can't yell at you for that, man. I love that shit. I mean, that's like, how do you think I became a writer? It's like, I remember just like being in college when Lost was coming out, like, just, in my mind racing on where is this going? Did Lost maybe turn out the way I hoped it would? Probably not, but I loved the process of like dreaming about where it would go. I think, and I just said this to the Lights Camera Pod guys, like, I think that the only time that stuff is detrimental to the viewing experience is when just the idea of like seeing someone like just seeing a character. The example I just used was Santa Claus, but like, oh, I saw Santa, like that suddenly is more important than the actual emotional story, like of the characters in the show that you're, just don't get so excited to see a rare Pokemon that you don't enjoy catching them all. Is that a good metaphor?
I think maybe the Mandalorian spoiled us with Luke Skywalker, right? Luke Skywalker came back.
I mean, it's like that was arguably the biggest cameo that can and ever will exist on television.
Yeah.
I don't like it. That was the buildup of young Luke Skywalker being a fully powered Jedi in his prime, kicking ass. Nobody's going to live up to that, nor, because there's we don't have the investment of 50 years of Star Wars love or whatever. Like, so I don't know if there's any, I don't know, maybe Luke's in our show.
Oh, there it is.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Oh, no, say that. Bob, we're
like
teasing the episode with that, and everyone's going to have to listen to the pod. Like, this is how you work in the game, man.
Listen, he said that he's going to bring in the X-Men in his Star Wars movie, too. I mean, he's giving us all the headlines, all the juicy headlines from Michael Waldron.
Thank you so much, Michael. And it kind of goes back to, like, even this phase in general. All, you know, the 3 shows that have started it, and now that Black Widow's been pushed back and the movie's going to come out afterwards, even that's a flashback. You guys, these 3 shows, it's basically like a baseball game where it's like the last game that we saw in the theaters was a walk-off grand slam in the 9th inning. It was Endgame, right? And it absolutely crushed. Right. And I guess, you know, Spider-Man as well afterwards. And now you guys, it's like, all right, game 1 of the next season. And it's like, there's no way there's just not enough invested in all these different characters. We're kind of like, it's the fallout from Endgame we're kind of coming off of here. And just to kind of see it all just build up, it's like everyone just, you know, settle down a little. I think as a parent, I've noticed this too. We should have enjoyed the way Quicksilver came onto the screen and be like, oh, that was a cool little nod to the fans. But it's like, what does it mean? We're talking multiverses.
I know, we ruined it for ourselves.
We ruined it for ourselves in that sense. And as someone, like, again, as a parent, I take the kids out for a nice, you know, surprise to ice cream. And then it's like, all right, now what's the next surprise? Are we going to Disneyland? It's like, Disneyland? Where did Disneyland come on the table, right? And that's what kind of happened, I think, with WandaVision, which was a great show in its own right. It's just we all built it up.
Especially, I feel like looking back in hindsight, a few months removed from WandaVision, everyone that was disappointed by the finale or that said they were feels maybe differently about it now. And they're like, you know what? I think we were a little too harsh on it. Like, that's how I felt, at least.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact is everybody knew what it was and everybody was talking about it, and it like captured the conversation, the kind of the cultural conversation in a way that I would argue probably maybe Mandalorian didn't, even on a week to week basis, just by nature of Mandalorian's a little bit more procedural in its episode. It stands alone a little bit more.
Yeah, there wasn't the what is going to happen next week. Like, we have to find out. It's like, well, Mandalorian will probably go to a different planet and do his job for someone in exchange for something. Yeah,
exactly.
Which is, we love it for that. It's a serial, but like we know what to expect going into it. Is Doctor Strange 2 going to be sick?
Yeah, it's going to be so sick.
Yes,
hell yeah,
confirmed.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I was over in London, helping make that for most of the first part of this year. You know, the cast is amazing. Benedict, Lizzie Olsen, everybody. You know,
keep naming names. Keep naming names.
Who's the guy who played Mephisto again in that?
Tom Cruise. No, it's Sam's amazing, and I think he's done something really special with this movie.
The return of Sam Raimi to the superhero genre is like worth the price of admission alone. Spider-Man 2 is one of my all-time favorite movies. Like, that was one of the movies that really captured my imagination when I was little. My brother taking me to that was like a euphoric experience. That was like me going to the TVA.
Oftentimes throughout shooting, I just let Sam say something. I'd look at Sam and I'd say, "Oh boy, yeah," and he'd just look at me. I was just quoting that Mary Jane line to Peter all the time.
I love, as a New Yorker, quoting though, like, if you want to get to him, you got to go through us.
There you go.
On the subway.
Oh. That's, well, I think if you love Spider-Man 2, I think you'll dig Doctor Strange too. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
I can't wait. Michael, thank you so much for the time. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to you, and thank you for creating a show that we're getting a hell of a lot of entertainment and enjoyment out of, and speculation week to week. Like you said, the week to week aspect really is the way to go for these shows, I think.
Yeah, this is the fun. Enjoy yourselves. Go crazy doing it. I think that's why we write it. And we'll get together again and talk about heels. We didn't even talk about wrestling.
Yes.
That's a real shame.
We'll make that happen.
See y'all.
What's up, Michael?